Hello, let's not sugarcoat it. Let's do it real quick. There it is. There it is, folks. There it is. There it is. There it is. You can't even process what you're seeing right now. There it is. Now let's build the shape in our minds. This is actually a fourth dimensional shape, the octahedron would say. The Greeks would say this is the eye of God. Any two angles hold all this information. Any two of these angles. Now, if this one's 90 and it's looking back at this angle in here, and you hold it just like this, what is this angle? And what is that angle? So it's a square and this angle. Maybe it's better if I hold it like this. There we go. So we have that angle and that angle. Okay, and this is the reason why we actually have layers, is because the two objects are spinning. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? This is a little too complex for a minute and a half. The very beginning, let's start again. In the very beginning, no, let's start again. In the very beginning. No. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. All right. So we can see here that there's something fundamentally different about these two shapes, but they're exactly the same. This is why we have male and female structurings. So there's a past, a future, and a present. But as you can see, if I'm up, if my legs are up, my leg is up and I've got a triangle. See my triangle shape? This guy's got a triangle shape, but it's the opposite of mine. Do you see how that works? It's the opposite. It's the opposite. Now this one is the same. It's the same. Now the other way of shaping is by making, do you see how I did that? The triangle, the plane is down. Either the vector is down with a point to make a plane, or the actual two vectors make a plane. And if they do, there's an opposite one over here. Do you see how this is an opposite plane giving an opposite vector? Do you see how that works? But if this plane gives the same vector, it would be known, it would be the same as two males coming together. So this is the root of where male and female structure in the universe come from, is in the actual, you can see it right there, in the actual forming of the initial shape. The initial shape of the tetrahedron has to be formed with a male piece and a female piece. Now, when they're put together in the correct way, one is the plane, one's holding the plane and one is holding the vector with a point. You see that? So by doing this, I know this is going to be hard to explain, but these shapes are actually only pushing up or pushing down or pushing left or pushing right. They're not pushing up and down and left and right at the same time. Because of their limited, because they're using four vectors, this is hard to explain, but because they're using four vectors and a plane, they're using the minimum things that are needed. So in order for them to have, this is so hard to explain, but in order for them to have, this is only going up and down. This is not going left and right. Does that make sense to you? If you look at this pyramid, it only forces left and right, up and down. It doesn't force left and right, right? But if I turn it this way, it is now going left or right. I don't know how to explain that to you. But if we do this, we add another tetrahedron. It does force the left and right opposite up and down. Okay, so that's the actual shape of the tetrahedron. Now, everybody's wondering, why does it do this? It's because of observation. The tetrahedron cannot observe itself. As we see here in the unfinished tessellation of the ball, it can never observe itself. I went through a previous video where I really drilled down on that. Please go back and watch previous videos. So this is that tetrahedron making the square. How does one thing tessellate into another size? The smallest, simplest shape creates the four sides. See how we're looking at it as a square right now? It is a square, and the two tetrahedrons define the square. The corners, it has 8 corners. The 8 corners of the tetrahedron are the same as the 8 corners of the square. Now, what happens is that when we build out these tetrahedron shapes, when we build them out, we get this, and this is how. So if we have, this is hard to explain, but I'm going to say it all. If we have a square, and this is holding the space everything is not, and this is how the tetrahedron goes to the square. How does the square go to the 8-sided object? Let's go back to the 8-sided object. And what we have here is the 8-sided object, and the square in the middle has formed the tetrahedron and is being observed by do you see how it's doing it? I built this shape so you can see it a little bit better. So you can see it. Now this is both sides of it. I have it so it can only spin in one direction, and we're going to go over that again also. But oh boy, this is hard to explain. But basically, these two tetrahedrons observe the square, and you can see the square is in there. It's right there. That's the side of the square. Observe the square, and their corresponding corners. Do you see how these corners correspond? Make an imperfect. See how that's exactly 6. So I have to go over this. Okay, this is exactly 6 to here, and this is 6 to here. But because of the observation, this is creating this point to be observed by this point as 6. And so what happens is that these two spin in the opposite direction to always be making that observation from this corner to this corner, which is 6, but is actually read as 6.9/16. Now, because of that, that's actually what we have the collapsing of the universe going on in every millisecond of time. Okay, so anyway, we want to spin this up. We want to get to the reason why this works instead of dwelling on all the intricacies of it. I don't have time for everything that I know. I just want to get a quick structuring. So when this is at rest, it's like this. But if you notice, there is movement on this. This is why this is actually the movement of the electron. Now basically what we have here is 3 quarks. Quark number 1, tetrahedron number 1. Quark number 2 is the yellow tetrahedron. Quark number 3 is the square. The electron shield is the 2 pyramids on top of themselves of the octahedron. And then what we come to is the shield spinning onto itself, which is the solid, and the yellow is the liquid, and the blue is the gas. So let me say it again for everybody that didn't quite catch all of that. Okay, so here we have the solid, the liquid, and the gas. And the way that these spin is that this rotates. Do you see how I'm rotating that inside the points? And then watch this. This rotates inside this. Now what happens is that each one of these will actually create a swirl up. It'll swirl up in the presence of heat and other electromagnetic influences. It'll swirl up, so it'll get more and more agitated. And so the spin back and forth maintains the electron shield of this shape until this shape gets too with the extra spin of heat or anything else, it will blow apart the atom. So what it does is it takes all the energy and it spins up. And when it spins up into a new spin group, and that new spin group is liquid. And then when the liquid gets spun up past, so it has to maintain the speed of light on the 8-sided object. And then by maintaining that speed of light, it actually gets spun up to the next structure. This is the classic Pluto's form. 10 minutes.